Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my show. Appreciate you being here as usual. Before we get to this week's guest, we have some stuff to talk about. A lot of exciting things to talk about. December's here. Christmas time is here. We're all looking for some fun, some jolly good times, and I have the best day on the town for you. December 18th at the Parkway Theater in McKees Rocks, I am throwing the second annual I'll Call You Right Back Christmas event. And this year, it is going to be a Christmas movie double feature with two of the best Christmas movies ever created, Home Alone and Gremlins. So, basically, what's going to happen, you're going to go on www.I'llCallYouRightBack.com. You're going to go under the merch tab. You're going to buy a ticket. On December 18th, you're going to pull up at the Parkway Theater at McKees Rocks at 11 a.m. Do not be late. Once you get in there, I'm going to give you some tickets. You're going to grab yourself some soda pops. You're going to grab yourself a little popcorn. You're going to head back into the movie theater, and we're going to sit down and we're going to watch the 1990 holiday classic, Home Alone. And once we get done with Home Alone, it is not done yet. We are going to head out into the bar area at the Parkway Theater, where you will have 2 drink coupons to exercise at Abjuration Brewing, along with a snack table laid out by Streets on Carson. My boys down at Streets on Carson are going to bring us some good food, and we are going to enjoy it together. And on top of us having, drink coupons and good food, we are going to have a big screen that is going to be playing the Steelers game. The intermission is going to be from 1 to 2. The Steelers game starts at 1, and then once we have our food, once we watch a little bit of the Steelers game, we're going to pop back in the theater and we're going to watch Gremlins. I'm going to have you in there 11 a.m. We're going to get you out before 4 p.m. Little quick Sunday fun day, and I'm pretty pumped about it, to be honest. Going to have some cookie tables, we got some trivia, ugly sweater contest, the whole thing. There's not a better Christmas event that you could go to right now. If you would like to get tickets before they sell out, www.I'llCallYouRightBack.com under the merch tab, or you could go to I'll Call You Right Back on Instagram and click on the link in the bio to grab your tickets now. And let me tell you, over half of the tickets are sold out, and they are going quickly. I urge you to pop over there and grab yourself a ticket if you're thinking about it. I would love to see you. I would love to see you, your friends, your family. Bring your grandmother. I would love to see her too. I'd let her sit on Santa's lap. We're going to have Santa down there possibly. We're going to see. That's not in stone yet, but we're going to, who knows if he's going to come down. You never know. Santa's a mysterious fellow. If you're on the good list, maybe you'll see him. If you're a naughty guy, maybe you won't. But again, December 18th, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at the Parkway Theater in McKees Rocks. Tickets on sale now at www.I'llCallYouRightBack.com, and you click on that merch tab. It's the only selection you got there. Grab yourself a ticket. Hope to see you there. And now, the reason that everyone is here this week, we have a very special guest. I'm very excited about this. This is his second time on the podcast. So, Reverend Justin Criado, a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for many years now. We went to high school together. We spent a lot of time on the football field together. We spent a lot of time together in general. Justin moved to Colorado about 6 years ago to work at the Telluride Daily Planet. Right now, for his full-time gig, he works as an editor at the Telluride Daily Planet. On top of that, he writes a column there called The Chopping Block, and he also does some freelance work for some music magazines. He writes about different bands, and he's just a good dude. He's been grinding at it for many years. This first episode we did back in 2018 was basically just about what it was like moving from Pittsburgh to Colorado, and how he started to cut his teeth working for a newspaper out there. Telluride, it's a small area out there. It's a small town. So it was interesting to hear about. If you want to go online, episode 15, you could check that one out. But the reason that we're having him back on here, on top of all the things that Justin does now, he is now a published author with his first piece of work. So, Justin put out a book called The Chronicles of Chaos, 2019 to 2022 AD. What is The Chronicles of Chaos, you ask me? Let me tell you. So, Chronicles of Chaos is a book made up of 30 some odd stories that are nonfiction that are based off of Justin's life. And these stories that you're going to be reading about in the Chronicles of Chaos are all columns that Justin wrote over them 3 years for his column called The Chopping Block. Now, the subject matter of what these are a little bit, it's a little bit more free than Justin's job. And, we talk about this here. If you're working for a newspaper, you're obviously covering things that you're supposed to cover. There's news articles, there's topical things that you got to do. But on top of all that, Justin has this creative outlet called The Chopping Block, which is basically whatever he wants to write about. My first thing that I wrote, that I read that Justin did was a article called Barbershop Banter. And it was basically just about him going into a barbershop and getting a haircut after some life in the pandemic and kind of what that was like. It's very observational, but it is also very, very vivid, descriptive, dark, colorful. It's just raw. I don't really know how to describe it. I'll leave it to the episode for you to get what you get out of it. But I urge you to take a second and hop over to Justin's website, www.justincriado.com, JUSTINCRIADO.com, and check out his work. Chronicles of Chaos is available now. It is a short read. It's a great book. It has a lot of small stories that you could just rip through, and it's fun to read. It's just fun to be able to see what life was like from someone else's view. I ripped through this book pretty quick, and then me and Justin decided to, do an episode whenever he came home, and I was pumped about it. I was just excited to be able to get him in here and talk about his process behind the whole thing. And if publishing a book isn't a feat in itself, Justin did all this completely on his own, completely independent, only him. He recently went back to school to get a degree in publishing so he could do all this. And it's pretty fascinating to learn about what all goes into publishing a book. Now, I will not talk your ear off much anymore, but I do want to say that Justin is doing this all completely independent, like I just said. So basically what that means is he is marketing this himself. He is doing all the media himself. He's going around to different bookshops himself. He's doing everything himself. So if you enjoy reading, if you enjoy people from Pittsburgh, if you enjoy metalheads, if you enjoy, if you just enjoy good stuff, take my word for it. Check out this book, Chronicles of Chaos, 2019 to 22 AD, to 2022 AD, I'm sorry. And grab yourself a copy. It's really worthwhile. It's really worth reading, and it's really worth listening to the episode and hearing about all that goes into publishing a book. So quit talking your ear off. Without further ado, episode 225 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Reverend Justin Criado.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. A little bit more official than last time.
Yeah.
Last time we did this, it was a long time ago, and it was on top of a mountain.
It was 4 years ago now?
Yeah,
In Colorado, right?
April 19th, 2018.
Wow.
You were episode 15, and now you're going to be like either 225 maybe?
Jeez. I can't believe that was 4 years ago.
A long time ago.
Yeah, that was wild.
How long have you been in Telluride?
6 years.
So you were only there for a couple years.
Mm-hmm.
And you were working at Telluride newspaper, right?
Yep, Telluride Daily Planet. Yeah, it wasn't even 2 years that I was there when you came out.
Yeah, because we were talking about like the process of you the process of you moving and you getting a job at the Telluride newspaper, but then like the wild, I was asking you about stories that you were covering at that time. It was like those those kids that were found in a car in the middle of a field. Yeah,
the Doomsday Cult. Yeah,
insane.
Yeah,
absolutely ridiculous. I honestly don't know if you could even find that episode out again. I'm sure you could. Episode 15, if you want to listen to it, but that was a good one.
It's lost to history.
Yeah, that was a.
You had to be there. You had to hear it initially, right?
Yeah, yeah. You know, it was like whenever on the radios before we had all the streaming, you had to like listen to it live on air. Okay, so you're officially an author.
Yeah, as of October 11th of this year.
Is that official? Is that the official? Why is that the official date? Because that's the release date of the book?
That was my official release date, you know, but I've been working on the book for the past year plus now.
Yeah. So,
yeah. But that's when I physically released it, I guess, and put it on all the platforms.
Now, we're going to get into all this. Chronicles of Chaos, 2019, 2022 AD. 38 tales, 170 pages, was it written over 3 years? It was just, everything was in 2019 to 2022?
Yep. Yeah, it was almost 3 years exactly. July 2019 to June 2022.
Now, is there a reason that it was between those time periods, or is that just like your quality of work was just the best?
So these collections, these were originally appeared in the Telluride newspaper that I work for as columns, monthly columns. So in 2022, I got a Telluride Arts small grant is what they call them, artist grant. So I put this collection together. Like with that money based off of my columns. So I went back and like revised and expanded all of them and then put them all into one place, you know, so I had this collection. But that was the idea behind it, to get all my columns
all together at one spot.
In one spot, yep.
Now, whenever you were working at the newspaper, you know, what was your position there?
Editor. I'm still the editor of the Telluride Daily Planet.
Telluride Daily Planet. You're still the editor of that. Yep. I didn't know if you switched places or if you went to different ones, but
no, I did. I'm the editor of the Telluride Daily Planet, and then I also freelance.
Yeah,
and now I put out this book. So
now
all the words,
all these columns that you did. You know, what was the basis of your column? Because like these books are, you know, how would you describe, or these, not really books, but these stories, how would you describe these to the everyday person?
Yeah. So they're creative nonfiction. Yeah. So they're based off true events and they're journalistic in the sense that they're observational. So like these things are that I actually went through or I've actually seen.
Yeah.
You know, but I call them like 38 tales of terror. 38. You know, they're definitely kind of anxiety ridden. There's no rhyme or reason in terms of like a overall theme through all of them.
Yeah.
Other than it's just kind of like these
everyday things,
weird meanderings from my mind.
I like how you say it's like a point of observation, because like that's exactly how I would describe it. It's like everything that I read through there is just like a very descriptive, vivid look into everyday, you know, good and bad, monotony and, you know, bliss about our days.
Yeah.
But you have like you know, opposite spectrums of the whole thing. You know, you got some bleak ass shit in there, and then you got some like, you know, upbeat, fun, types of stories about just, you know, ripping and tearing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the first story in the book, and when I put this all together, I just all the stories are just chronological. So the very first story is my first column. So it's the oldest.
Oh, okay. But that was one of my questions originally.
Yeah. So the first story is about like me going to the dentist, which is like everyone goes to the dentist, but then it's like my anxiety about how fucking weird it is to go to the dentist and have a stranger put their hands in your mouth. So that's kind of like the thought behind things. I'm like, we just do shit because we're told to do shit, but it's like kind of weird when you think about it.
Yeah, it's like following the like, GPS off a cliff. But it's weird because what you're saying is, you know, it's interesting because I feel like all these thoughts, all these collective thoughts that you're working through with all these stories are all like your subliminal, you know, subconscious. Those are the thoughts that everyone's thinking. Yeah. But you just are like, you know, putting them down on paper.
Yeah, it's like my inner monologue.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, I feel like I could articulate myself way better in writing. Like if I have a thought, it's hard for me to get it out of my mouth.
Yeah.
But if I sit down and I write it, or if I even like pen and paper write it, I could like just describe it better. Yeah. So that's kind of what these things are. Cause it's like, and obviously 2019 to 2022, pandemic time.
Yeah.
So that helped me a lot through that, just to be like deal with like all my anxiety and shit.
Yeah.
Because I was out there by myself with my four walls, you know.
Yeah,
So-
lockdown and everything.
Yeah,
Already
so-
in a small spot.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like I'm covering it, and like no one knew what was going on at that time. So having this creative outlet to put out these columns, and like I think you'll see throughout them, like they start out pretty like my initial ones are pretty fast and furious. They're kind of almost surface level and like stuff I'm talking about, like just being like wild. But then like as you kind of get deeper into them, especially like 2020, 2021,
Yeah.
they get a little bit more introspective.
Yeah.
I share a little bit more vulnerable. Like I was just getting comfortable with that stuff. I mean, I just had to do that stuff.
Yeah.
Like with writing, it's like, if I don't write, I feel off. It's like not brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You have
It's
to
just
like get it out of
It's
you.
just like I have to write, you know, even if it's just like a line or two. It's just, I just have to put a thought down.
Yeah.
Even if I never use it.
Whenever you wrote "Walk with Me in Hell," that thing was all about like like a creative block.
Yeah.
And you meeting like word deadlines and trying to like, and that was like one of the earlier ones. Was that your was that like the probably the first 5 or whatever?
I was gonna say it was within the first year for sure.
Now, you being a writer, I kind of want to like rewind a little bit to like how you even kind of came to this, because for people that like don't know who you are, you have an interesting past. You were a football player, played football through college, but I always remember you as being like the audiophile. I always remember you, but I was like trying to like search back in my mind. It's like, were you like keen to writing in high school and stuff? I don't remember that about you.
That's funny you say that, because like you would assume that I was like super bookish and like nerdy and like kind of like, I don't know, like awkward, quiet.
Avant-garde.
Yeah, exactly. But like, it was just that I always kind of did well in those subjects, like English and reading or whatever.
Yeah.
In like going through school. And I've always read. I wasn't like a super reader or whatever, but it was like, I would read stuff.
You enjoyed reading.
Yeah. Yeah. It was like a pastime or whatever. But actually it wasn't until I got to like, was looking at colleges. And at that time, like you said, I was like, I'm just going to go to school for football.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh wait, you need to study something,
Yeah.
and
I'm going to the NFL.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm just going to get drafted. It doesn't even matter. Like,
Yeah, it's weird to think about that, because like that's really what I was getting to is like, obviously like back then you're like, oh yeah, I might play football, but everyone needs to have like a backup plan.
and then we had to do like, in order to graduate, we had that big senior capstone project. So I actually, and just being in like a sports nut, I shadowed Kevin Gorman of the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, who was the Pitt football beat writer. So I went to a Pitt game and I was like, I'll be a sports journalist. Like that's kind of like my pocket over there,
Yeah.
And then like I decided to major in communications, focus with journalism. So I took all the journalism classes at Robert Morris University. And then by the time it was my sophomore year is when I started my first byline. So I was like 19.
What is a byline?
It's when I first got like published as like a journalist.
Like
freelancing. Like I did a couple internships with the Pittsburgh Sports Report. I interned for the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yeah.
I was with their communications department for a season. But then, it's kind of like it, again, like just being more drawn to like the arts, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Like I was never a numbers guy, I guess.
That makes sense.
That's kind of like how I found my groove. Like it was like, oh, I want to be a sports writer. Like my dream back then was like, I want to cover the Steelers or Penguins or something.
Yeah, something
Pittsburgh
along
sports.
those
I
lines.
covered the Pirates. So,
made the best of what you had.
Yeah.
We made the best of what
They
we
were
had.
throwing anyone on that beat. But
Well, it was interesting because like what your writing is like definitely like observational. It's like everyday things, but it's also written very like vividly. It's colorful, even though it's dark. If that makes sense. But the reason that I'm asking about your interests as younger, it's like what that I was like kind of the same way. Like I remember writing papers and like it was like you had an opportunity to really like kind of get creative. It was like the only opportunity we had in one of the main core subjects to kind of like be creative.
Yeah.
And you like took advantage of that. Like what kind of
like, and then like you were talking about like, I've always been like a metalhead. Like I had like my Pantera and Metallica t-shirts on in high school and whatever, like as undershirts for my pads in football. But like, I just kind of like weave that shit into there, because like if you just read lyrics,
Yeah.
anyone's lyrics,
Yeah, it's
like
crazy.
that's like poetry.
Yeah, because some of the ones
You know?
that you have a lot of it in your book, and like
Yeah.
a lot of those songs that like I know of those songs, but I've never like read through the lyrics, and it's wild how like through the how like in that moment they apply like Walk With Me in Hell. Like you post a lot of lyrics because as you have this creative block, this writer's block, you're just like listening to metal, and it's like almost like these bleak things like Raining Blood you were talking about.
Yeah.
And I thought that was cool because it's like it's a very, very like you're good at like you're descriptive at writing. Like I don't know the right terminology to be able to describe it, but whenever you were beginning this, becoming like a sports writer and just like first getting published, did you have anything else besides sports material to write about?
Yeah, so I started basically straight for sports. But then like I quickly realized like in order to probably be employed, you need to like cover everything, which, just general news or whatnot. But like in the back of my head, it's like a joke. It's like every journalist has like one great book idea.
Yeah.
So in the back of my head, I was like, I think I want to be a writer, but I've never thought of myself as like, George R.R. Martin, where I could just like write like, Game of Thrones, and create a whole world. I was like, no, I still have that reporting background. Like it comes from that journalist, but I just like to be a little bit more creative with it. Just a little bit more weird, like connect some dots that maybe don't. Like I'm influenced by a bunch of fiction, like horror fiction, just, even you could even say like music lyrics are like a form of fiction, or whatnot. But I'm always like just making like weird connections to the real life, I guess. Like I bridge that fiction to reality.
And you like interweave it in all of your work.
Yeah. Where it's like, I got one piece in there. It's called Zombie Waltz. It's about like the bar scene and how everyone's just like a drunk zombie type of thing. It's like people like know what those things, like you just make associations. I don't even,
you make associations, but it's like you're watching like a cinematic, fiction version of it. It's like you're punching it up in a way that people, it's going to resonate and ring that bell with people, but it might not be exactly like, people just couldn't put their finger on what they're thinking about.
And like I just wrote, like I still write the column. It's called The Chopping Block.
Yeah.
I just wrote one last week about like my black cat has like this weird fascination with mirrors, and I'm like, I try to start things that it's like it's pretty mundane, like everyone can relate to it, and then if you read them, because they're pretty short, like the ones in the book are
4 pages,
and they're all like 1,000 to 1,500 words, so like really quick reads. I call them like quick hitters, but like if you read them, like you'll be like, all right, he's going to the dentist, and then all of a sudden it just like turns, and it just like gets weird. Like I just want to make it like bizarre. Yeah, I just want to kind of like fuck with people a little bit.
Yeah. Keep on the edge of your seat.
Like put like ideas in their head.
Yeah,
like when you're laying on your back with your mouth open, like you don't know who's putting their hands in your mouth.
100%. But then you also have like topical pieces that are like super important, like A Grenade in My Heart. Yeah, and it's like through all this like observational like monotony and everyday life, you also have these things that are important subjects that are creating chaos in our world. Yeah. And it's interesting because like as a writer, you being a professional, I guess professional writer, you call it, as your everyday job, whatever, do you have like free reign of the content that you cover kind of?
For like the newspaper?
Yeah. Because obviously freelance, you could do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah. Well, and most of my freelance is music writing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like in terms of our day to day out in Telluride, it's a small town anyway. It's only 2,500 people. It's 1 square mile. Yeah. It's a main street in a box canyon, one way in, one way out. So, there's not maybe as much news going on as like a city.
So you got to get creative.
Yeah. So yeah, we do actually more probably like arts coverage, if you want to call it that. Like we preview a lot of plays, or we have a lot of festivals during the summer, but like, and we cover those like pretty straightforward. We preview like, so artist is coming. We get an interview with them. But then with my column, I had a column called Festival of Freaks. and it's all about the late night party scene
Ah.
that like people don't want you to really report on in terms of like a touristy mountain town.
Yeah.
You know, we're not going to be like, oh yeah, everyone's like fucked up on drugs. You know what I mean? Well, I wrote that in my column that everyone's like tripping out real bad.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, the festival of freaks. So yeah, that's my outlet to be a little bit more like
Different.
you know, like get a little bit like poke at the core of things or something, you know?
Yeah.
Or just like honest. Like I see it as like honesty.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this is great that we have all these things going on, but like also like,
This is a
you know, people,
observation.
yeah, like people are being zombies out here, like on acid, you know?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's definitely two different worlds of it, because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you're covering the news and like, this is everyday things that, you know, that's the news. These are the facts, you know, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, you cover that, but you know, you're also like, you know, covering the facts, throughout your block, but it's also, you're having fun with it seems.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all the pieces in Chronicles of Chaos in the chopping block column are factual.
Yeah.
Like the only thing I have changed are names for some people.
Yeah.
You know, to protect kind of like the innocent and the insane, I like to say. But like all those things happened.
Yeah.
Like even if they're just like my anxiety attacks, like those happen. Those are thoughts I had, or those are weird things that I've seen.
And I feel like
Yeah.
it comes through as you're reading it. Like
Yeah.
it definitely, you know, and that's what was like that's what was so like interesting and like kind of kept you in, because, you know, a book is cool. Like a fictional book is cool. Like you can get lost in a world, but it's just as addicting to get lost in everyday things from, you know, the view from inside someone else's mind.
Yeah.
And that's what was fun to like, you know, read through about it, you know,
Nice.
what you're trying to like, you know, make of this, like this
Yeah.
fucking,
Yeah, it
circus
is me
we're
like processing stuff. Like I did a reading last week in Telluride, and it's our off season, so it's like super slow.
Yeah.
Like before the ski season starts, and I have an off season piece called Beyond the Rainbow.
yeah.
And in one of my observations is I'm like just walking down the street. It's real barren, whatever. But like I saw this lady like deep throat a freaking corn dog, and then she was driving. She was driving down our main street with a corn dog in her mouth, and then she had her wrist rested on the steering wheel, and she was taking a selfie. But there was construction, so the street was
Jesus.
closed, so she had to slam on the brakes, and it was like a whole scene. And I was like, "Oh, did anyone else see that?"
Yeah.
Well, you know, like I'm gonna write about that.
I was watching. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, I saw that, you know, like she probably thought no one was watching, but it's just like stuff like that. And I read that piece, and someone in the honest was like, did that really happen? I was like, 100% that happened. I was like, the whole piece is based off of that lady eating a corn dog.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, I'm going to write a piece around that. And that's how it starts. It's like one little note. Like I also work as like a bar bouncer on the weekend out there.
Yeah.
So I'll like see like festival freaks. I'll see someone like do something weird, or when you don't think someone's watching, like I'm pretty observational in that sense. And then I'll be like, oh, I could take that one
That's a
moment,
seed.
and spin off on that. I'll put a note in my phone, and then when I have the deadline to write a column, I'll put it out on a Word doc, and they call it writing in the dark. I don't plan out or anything. I just almost stream of consciousness, like on the spot. And like, you know, obviously once I get it out, I go back and re-edit it or rearrange it. But yeah, I don't like workshop my pieces or anything, you know, like I don't have the time. Like I don't have the luxury of time when you're on deadline.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. So, like your position at the Telluride newspaper, it's like what type of, you know, being in the news, you have to be current with everything. So it's like, what is your everyday like usually at work?
Yeah. So we try to plan, like we put out 4 papers a week. We put out like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Sunday paper.
Are they the same size, or is a Sunday
Yeah,
bigger?
it fluctuates based off of mainly the number of ads.
Okay, that
But
makes
like
sense.
the content, the staff written content's pretty much the same, or the amount of it. But anyway, we try to plan out the week as much as we can. Like luckily, like I said, like small town, there's not as much breaking news,
Yeah.
like i.e. like crime, which is nice. But yeah, we try to plan out like on Monday. We're trying to like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And then it's like mainly meeting coverage and maybe some recaps, a lot of previews. Like we try to preview things more than anything. But like like our production days, like when we're actually putting papers out, are Tuesday through Friday. So that's when you're actually working on it. But like in my column always runs the third Thursday of every month.
The chopping block.
The chopping block. Yeah. So I'm always working. Typically I'm always working. Like if I'm lucky, I'm working on my column Monday.
Yeah.
And then I come back to it on Wednesday. But like last week, I had this idea for a while, but I didn't get a chance to write it. I had notes in my phone.
Yeah.
And I didn't pull my notes out and put them in a Word doc until Wednesday. So I wrote from like Wednesday from like 10 to 2.
Yeah.
And that was it. And then it went to print. Like I sent it to my associate editor who looks over all my stuff to edit it. And then it was out there.
Wow.
Yeah, it's that quick, but I think I've been conditioned as a journalist, especially starting as a sports journalist, where I would like, I'd cover high school football games out here, and it's like they end at 10.
Yeah.
I have a midnight deadline.
That's a good point.
So I got conditioned to be real quick with it.
Yeah, you were cutting your teeth on that.
Yeah. So I just apply that to like anything I do now.
Do you have do you have to work under, limitations as far as like how many words you get?
It's all, yeah. So it's the column space is all one page. It's like 2 columns, if you could think about that, like 2 newspaper columns.
Yeah.
So I'm working on like 900 words.
900 words is what you get.
Yeah.
And
yeah, so that's like with the column, like the chopping block columns, like all that these pieces appeared in initially, like I call those are first drafts.
Yeah.
I was like, I wrote to the space, I wrote on deadline. I was like, now I could go back
and expand
and like kind of edit some things or expand it. So that's what I did over the past year when I was putting these together.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Then you had a little bit more freedom to sit down and let them marinate a little bit. Mm-hmm. Now, go ahead.
I was gonna say, going back and reading some of these, like, because like usually as a journalist, you're always like living in the future.
Yeah.
Like I'm always working on tomorrow's paper.
Yeah.
Usually when I put these out, like I don't even think about them.
Yeah, it's just out of your mind.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with the podcast. I don't even remember the shit that I talk about.
Exactly.
And you're just like worried about the next week of it.
Yep.
And I was going to ask you that. It's like, since you said these were all of the columns that you worked on, the first one was in 2019.
Yeah.
You just went back when you decided to write this book or put all these stories together for this book, you went back and read through all these things.
Yeah.
It's like, what was your impression of your work over those 3 years? Is there any that you didn't use?
No, they're all in there, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like reading your diary.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
To a degree, like 3 years, like it didn't seem like 3 years, but then I was like, holy shit. I was like, I wrote this in 2019.
Yeah, it's like,
3 years ago.
Do you find yourself like critiquing yourself?
Bro, all the time. Like all the time. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing that. But like if I didn't have a deadline, I'd still be tweaking these things. Like I need a deadline to a degree to hit.
Yeah.
To like just stop.
Or it's like an art piece where you can just go forever.
I'll obsess over words that like no one would even probably notice, but 100%. Just like me. But yeah, but like going back on these, there's like some pieces that I was like, I probably wouldn't write that again. But for the record, this is what I was thinking in 2019.
Well, that's cool though. That's what's interesting about it. Is it like in that moment in time, it's like that was your creative, release. And, just what life was back then. I mean, like we were all stuck in a fucking house for 2 years, basically, just staring at walls and like trying to not go insane.
Yeah.
It's weird like to think about that.
Like at first, I mean, dude, I have a bunch of existential dread.
Yeah.
Which you could probably read in this book.
You could see it sprinkled in.
Yeah. Yeah. You might be able to pick up on it.
Yeah.
But at first I was like, this is the end of the fucking world. So now I'm covering the end of the world. Like I was operating on that mindset. I was like, almost like this is going to be there's a piece in here called Extinction Journal.
Yeah. Extinction Journals.
Yeah. And I was like, well, this is for like the future aliens that come down and be like, what the fuck happened to humans? A virus wiped them out. And it's like that they could pick up that. That was my mindset for that. But like just weird. I spiral real bad too on stuff.
Yeah.
So of course during that time I was like this is the end. I'm not out here by myself. I'm not going to be able to get across the country to come back to Pittsburgh to my family. It's going to be like Mad fucking Max if I have to drive across the country.
That's a good point.
Like I was like this is fucking crazy, right? So I just put that all on the page. And it was kind of like a thing where it was like cuz it was isolating, I'm talking to people like via Zoom or like email or whatever, but there's no face to face like hanging out. I'm like, it's like I put it out there like, this is fucking crazy, right? It was like I wanted people to like reaffirm like, yeah, you're not the only one to a degree, you know?
It makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, I guess we could still kind of say that we're still in COVID times, but
oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, at what point were you like, all right, I'm going to put these together? Do you have any idea what that date was?
Yeah. So last 2 Julys now.
2 Julys ago.
Right? Yeah, not this past July too.
The one before that,
2021.
So, but that was your intention. You were like, I'm going to put all these together into a book.
Yeah, well, I wish I was that organized. Here's what happened. So I decided to go back to school, and I applied for a master's in publishing program at Western Colorado University.
With the hopes of what?
To learn how to put out my own books.
Okay.
Because I've looked at like masters of fine arts and creative writing and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, no, those are great, but I don't think I want to just focus on the writing. I want to know how to like put my own shit out.
Yeah.
Because like I look at this stuff as like like being like real into music. I'm like, this is like a DIY label. Like I just want to do all this shit myself. I want to press my own tapes. Like
100%.
I want to print my own books.
I want my hands on it. I want boots on the ground.
Yeah, like I'll do short runs.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, like I don't want to give Amazon my money. They don't need my money to go to space.
Yeah.
You know, like that's where I'm at with it. I'm like, no, just pay me directly. You know, like that's kind of where it was. So I got accepted into this publishing program, and the course project in order to graduate was to republish public domain work. So basically, but put a book together.
Publish your public domain work?
No, public domain is any material
from a newspaper and stuff
that was published within, I forget what, I think it's 100 years.
Oh,
yeah. So my project for that course was Best of Weird Tales collection from 1923 to 25.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So I had like Houdini and Lovecraft and shit in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was real creepy. But anyway, then I was going through that course and putting my books together or whatever.
Yeah.
My project. Well, then locally, the Telluride Arts District put out a call for applicants for these grants. So in my mind, I was like, I'm learning how to put out books for this master's program. I was like, well, why don't I put out my first book simultaneously while I'm learning?
Yeah.
So so it's like, cause I wasn't busy enough with a full-time job and
100%.
freelance. Yeah. And going to school. So that's where it came from. And obviously being a local arts organization, they wanted a local tie.
Yeah.
So that's was like, I'll put out my columns, you know, as editor of the newspaper here. So that's, man, I think I officially started putting together Chronicles of Chaos in September 2021. And I gave myself a release date of October 11th, 2022, because I graduated from school in July 2022. And I was like, okay, and that gives me like some time to get my own book together.
Yeah.
And I didn't even think I have no marketing behind it. I technically released this dead is what they call it. Cause they call it like a dead release because there's no marketing push behind it. Like I wasn't getting reviews before it came out, you know, like,
okay.
You know
I get what you're
mean?
saying.
It was just like posting shit on like my social media and my like 500 followers or whatever.
Well, so I mean, like, if you're putting this together and you want to publish it, like, I know that. Would you consider this an independent publishing?
Oh, it's indie, yeah,
yeah, independent publishing, right?
Yeah, it's all indie, yeah.
So
I like to call it underground.
Underground. All right, I like that.
Underground cult publishing.
Underground cult publishing.
Yeah, very black metal.
I want to know. He's a very black metal. I want to know, like, kind of some more about that. As far as like, you know, I want to hear about the side of like going with like a company to do it compared to your choice of doing it underground, and whether that was strictly like a numbers game, or is that just you saying fuck Amazon and you want to be
a little bit of both? Because if you go with like traditional publishers, they're like
what's the process from the beginning? You write your book.
I got a book. Say I had my Chronicles of Chaos
just typed up,
and I'm like, this is ready to go.
Yeah.
If I want to go traditional publishing, which is like, you know, Penguin Random House, you have to, at this point, you typically have to have a literary agent. So before you even pitch to a publisher,
you got to be paying
you have
someone.
to pitch to a literary agent
Yeah.
who then pitches to the publisher.
Yeah.
Now, you know, those are top of the top, obviously. Those are like, you know, the monolithic publishers that have been around forever. But now there's been a lot of more, they call them indie presses or small publishers, you know, that'll do a couple of titles a year. And then, but they also take submissions. They have a submission period. And then it's just, everything just takes a long time, like way longer than you would probably expect. Like years.
If you're going through someone.
If someone's publishing it for me.
Because they probably got thousands and thousands submissions every week.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they have to, then you get into the reading period, and then you get into the copy edit period, and there's probably rewrites, and then there's marketing, then there's back and forth with the cover art and just shit. You know, then you do like a marketing campaign with interviews, or, you know, there's just way more fingers in the pie.
Yeah.
That way, which just extends the process. Which is great because obviously, you know, New York Times bestsellers have all the people power behind them and the push. But for me, just being a little bit impatient and also just wanting to figure it out myself, I was like, I'm going to do indie because my idea too is like I could eventually publish other people's work now because I know how to do it. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to start with my stuff first. Because if I, you know,
so what is
a
school,
learning experience?
Like what does school outline as far as like what you need to learn as far as a publisher?
Literally everything.
Well, I mean, I get that, but like what are the big things that you have to like really figure out?
Printing costs, printing schedule.
Yeah.
You know, like working with printers basically, and you know they teach you how to put it on Amazon and shit, Kindle Direct Publishing, and how to revert. You know, like how to take a manuscript and make it into different formats, not just a physical book, but like an ebook, an audio book.
Okay.
You know, just like every little detail of it. They talk about like search word engine optimization or whatever, you know, like there's programs,
all the ins and outs.
Yeah. How to market like specific genres, which is tied to like, you know, your cover art or your font on your cover. Like you see something, you're like, oh, that looks like a horror novel, right?
Yeah.
Like this looks like
a horror novel.
Yeah.
Or like some sort of astrology, you know, type of thing.
Yeah. There's little moons on the front. But I wanted my whole thing, like while I was going through school and shit, you know, like they were teaching us this and that. And like my mind always just went to like the music industry.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, they're teaching us how to be a top 40 pop star. I want to be the underground Norwegian black metal band that only puts out 50 cassettes forever. I know. And then it's like, you have to know, you know what I mean? Like, and that kind of tied into like my cover art. Like, you know, it's been on shelves at like the local bookstore in Telluride or whatnot. Or I was at a book festival in Miami a couple weekends ago. And like everyone has these nice, colorful, poppy covers, and then it's like just this fucking black hole in the middle of them. And I was like, I kind of like that because actually it attracts your eye more because it's not trying to fit in. You know what I mean? It has like a little devil guy on the front or whatever.
Yeah,
just
the
like
cover
weird
art,
shit, man.
The cover art is definitely a wild thing. Gordy art from the Ukraine.
Yeah, he's Ukrainian.
Yeah.
And I sent him a book. This was a couple months ago now. I sent him a book. He's in Odessa, which thankfully isn't in like, you know, any imminent danger with the invasion. But I was like, this isn't going to fucking get there. You know, like I sent him a care package. He's like, the mail is still working. It took a month, but it got there.
Oh,
so that
dope.
was like some wild shit. You know, like I sent him a bunch of goodies and whatnot, but I was like, whoa, like I have a book in Ukraine.
Yeah.
I just found him on Instagram, you know, a couple years ago, like before obviously everything went down with Russia,
and gravitated towards that.
Yeah. And I was like, that's sick. And I reached out to him. He's like, yeah, totally. He could use for a book. He hooked me up and I've been in touch with him. We've become like little pen pals now.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was cool. But yeah, I just want things to like,
you wanted to be able to just, you know,
I just wanted to do it myself.
You needed all the tools for your toolbox. You were just putting tools in your toolbox. Now I'm curious, you know, so you wrote this down. It's all typed up, ready to roll. You know, like what are you envisioning, you know, as far as a book? Like, did you have an idea of like how many pages you wanted it to be, what size, you know, like how everything needed it?
Yeah. Which is something, you know, I just learned last year going through that program, but like even like this is a nonfiction book technically. Most nonfiction books are bigger, you know?
Yeah.
They're like 6x8 or whatever, 6x9. But I wanted this to be like a pocket size, like a pulp paperback type of thing. So I made it 5x8, which is even smaller than a typical fiction book because they're like 5.5 by 8.5. But like I just found a printer online. You know, I just did my research. Most printers, for whatever reason, are mainly based on the East Coast. There's a lot in Canada too, and
You don't know the reasoning behind that?
not really. I don't know if it's just like traditionally.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I guess Canada has a lot of lumber, paper. You know, supply,
that would make sense.
But
so the people that you found online to print this through, is this like a big company?
they're called 48 Hour Books. They're based. Their headquarters are in Akron, Ohio, but they have a printing facility in Las Vegas, which cut down on my shipping supplies significantly because it's by weight.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
Like, and I had the budget of the grant.
Yeah.
So that was just like a weird learning process. It's like, yeah, you could find, it's like printing anything else. Like
what are minimums of a book? Like, how many did you have to get printed? Do they make you have a certain minimum, or did you just
some
choose
do, some don't. Like for this, I printed 200 and I got like 25 for free. So I got 225 for my short run.
Okay.
And that's what they call it, like a short run, instead of like a mass market paperback where they're printing like thousands or whatnot, or print on demand. This is available for print on demand for like bookstores if they wanted to go on a certain website. There's a certain website for all of this, but for me, I wanted the stock.
Yeah.
I was like, just give me 200 and I'll just hustle them.
Yeah.
I sell them when I work at the bar on the weekend.
Yeah.
You know, like I just bring a backpack of like books, and if I talk to people, they give me $20. You know, drunk people are pretty impressionable, and you know, easy to persuade.
I write some pretty interesting things myself.
I get all philosophical with them, but yeah, I just wanted to know how to do shit.
Yeah,
because it's like not that. It's not that like mystical. Once you see shit, it's like, oh, I have to find a printer. Oh, this really sucks. They're going to hit you with $600 of shipping costs.
Yeah.
You know, that like the shine wears off real quick.
Yeah.
Once you get into the nitty gritty.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then you got to get into distribution, and I don't know. It's all learning process.
So are you technically, you're not in distribution right now. Distribution is meaning what?
Distribution would be like if
you had
the main publishers, like the big publishers.
Okay, yeah, like someone hustling your book for you.
Yeah, like selling them for me, basically.
Now, your thoughts behind all this, like, you know, obviously you knew that you're not like, you know, this is your first book. So obviously you're not super well known. Like, what are your thoughts as far as like, you know, a finished piece and like your goals with it? Like how you're going to guerrilla market this thing? Is that like, you know, that was your ideas from the beginning?
Yeah, I even with writing, even if I get a column out, I'm satisfied with the process.
Yeah.
Once it's done and I put it out there and people like it or hate it, that's gravy.
It's just out there.
I'm just like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm not like nervous at that point. I'm not like, oh, I hope they like it. Or if not, I'm going to be really upset. I'm just like, yeah, I put this out there. Like, if you don't like it, don't read it. If you like it, read it. Cool. Yeah. But with this, I'm like, I just wanted a physical book.
Yeah, I mean, it's dope.
I was like, if I just print like 5 books, I was like, that's great. I still have like really no expectations for sales. I've actually sold half as of 2 weeks ago when I went to Miami. I sold half of my short run.
Wow,
in a month.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and I was like, really great.
I mean, like realistically, like what did you expect?
Not like literally nothing. I was like, I'm going to put this shit out. I might do some local readings in Telluride.
And you're going to have a stock for whenever people want to buy them.
Yeah, and I was like, I'll probably fucking burn these at some point. You know what I mean? Like, or put them in, they have like a free box area in Telluride.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll put them in the free box.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, I just have a book. And then like in my head, I'm like, if I write one book, if I put out a book, like basically what I did here, if I put out one book like this a year for the next 10 years, who knows what's going to happen? Yeah. You know, I could get picked up by a traditional publisher. For sure. That's not my goal, but it's like, just put shit out there. Like, yeah. Again, the music analogy, like this is my demo. This isn't like my masterpiece. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
That makes a lot of sense.
It's like, this is my introduction to the world. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
That's how I look. Like, this is my demo. I'm still going to work on some EPs and then, drop my, my all time, greatest record type thing, who knows when, but it's going to be a couple books in, I think. I'm already working on my next book.
And I mean, like is that going to be like the same type of thing?
It's all, since they're not necessarily going to be, it's not necessarily going to be a collection of columns. I'm going to have longer pieces.
Yeah.
But there's still going to be essays in the vein of like David Sedaris or Augustine Burroughs or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not like
do you have a hard
like
deadline?
Novel.
You have a line that you want to be done by?
October 11th, 2023.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, as far as like, planning your shit out, obviously this is a little bit different. Chronicles of Chaos is a little bit different because you already had the material. You kind of just you had the big ass hunk of marble. You just had to chip away at it.
Yeah.
So to speak. Now, this next one is obviously going to be something, completely different. What's your mindset as far as like planning and, are you someone that's like goal oriented where you have to hit marks, you have to like fulfill certain things, checklists?
Yeah, to a degree. I need deadlines.
Yeah.
And I
work better under pressure.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even putting this together, it was on my own timeline, but I gave myself deadlines to hit. And when I knew that final deadline, I was like, your release date's like October 11th. It's like you just kind of get it done. That's what motivates me. So that's similar to what I'm doing now. Like, they're not going to be like previously published pieces, but I have like I could pull out my phone right now and show you my notes. I have
just
15 to 25 ideas that I just need to flesh out.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to put in my next collection. But yeah, it's going to be a collection. And what I like about these too, it's like, since they're written like, since there's a month's time in between, when I write a piece, it's like I pour everything into it.
Yeah.
So they're like pretty intense.
Yeah.
So when I was going back and I was putting these together, and when I actually got the draft copy of the printed book, and I was going over to make some edits or whatever, like copy edits to see if it was good. I did it in like one afternoon, and just reading them back to back. I was like, this is fucking intense.
Yeah, it's a wild ride.
Yeah,
I read them in two big parts. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I read probably like 100 pages at one sitting, and then like the rest of it in another. But it is a wild ride, and and it's so interesting to hear that they were all chronological because now that you say that, it kind of understands. They start to get a little bit more. Like you said, introspective and a little bit darker, a little bit more raw.
Yeah.
Not just the everyday going to the dentist, but more or less the kind of escaping from your mind.
Yeah.
Now, the thing that I'm interested about, as far as like you said you were talking about a draft copy. Now you have these columns that you're editing down. What's the editing process like? Like how thorough is that? How long did that take you?
So I'm always like I said, I'm always self-editing.
Yeah.
So that like is seamlessly never ending. But then I have like my coworker who edits them initially in the paper, and she'll kind of just do, it's not too much back and forth, not like developmental edits or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, she'll make the edits, and then it's kind of just like, it's in the paper. So it's like,
it's already kind of combed through and
it is. But then especially when I expanded these, obviously I'm self-editing again, and I'm like, oh shit. Then I worked with like a copy editor to look over stuff.
Oh, you did? Mm-hmm. And that's someone to, read over your book and give you notes and things of that on that?
Yeah. Yep. To a degree, like almost fact check too, because like, there's notes in there about, there's like pop culture references or
years
whatever,
and everything like that.
Yeah, so he helped me with that. His name's Pat Smith, out in Colorado. But yeah, and that's another thing. Like with this dynamic, I'm like, people are always like, okay, I'm a writer, and then I work with an editor. Well, I'm an editor. You know what I mean? Not saying that I don't need an editor.
Yeah, but
I write with an editor's eye.
Yeah.
And then I reread with an editor's eye.
It's very interesting to think about that.
But I do need other sets of eyes too.
Yeah, but one of the main things that you have to work under is like trimming the fat.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you don't have a lot of fluff in your newspaper.
Yeah, and like writing to space helps that too. Like even, like I'm saying, like I want my next collection to be a little bit longer, but I'll still have a word count. So I'm like, okay, I want these pieces to be 5,000 words.
Yeah.
That's the space that I'm writing to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's interesting. That's my finish line. Yeah.
Antoinette usually tells me, whenever I'm writing like descriptions and stuff like that for podcasts, she's like, it's too much. Like it's too much fluff. You need to just like tighten it up. And I'm definitely guilty of like, trying to over explain things and like, just put a bunch of garbage in there. But whenever you're writing like your process, do you like, is it different for you? It's interesting now because these are all like pieces that you already wrote. So I'm talking to you about like editing them and they're already edited, but it's like the new pieces that you're writing. These are obviously, you mentioned like having a notebook and like jotting things down in your notes and everything like that. And there's obviously more process of combing through, but do you notice that you write differently whenever you're like, all right, I'm going to like write for this book compared to like the newspaper?
Yeah.
It's like, do you try, like, I don't know the right way to describe it, but it's like, do you try harder as far as like, I want to be more interesting. I want to like add some more color into this.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, with the newspaper, it's like,
You can only go so much.
I'm representing the newspaper as well too. So not that I'm not representing it to a degree when people see my name on a book,
Yeah.
and then they know who I am to a degree. But yeah. So when I was expanding these and revising them, I definitely made them a little spicier.
Yeah.
Like maybe I could get away with saying some shit that I couldn't get away with in the paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's like, so every column that I do, I keep the initial rough draft. And most of those rough drafts have my initial notes that they're inspired by. So sometimes there's like, if you just it's weird. I've never really thought of like put it into words, but like, it's weird. Like when you get into writing a piece, or when I get into writing a piece, sometimes I'll have like what I think is the coolest fucking line or sentence. And then you write the piece and it just doesn't fit.
Really?
And like, I've gotten to a point where I'm like, don't even try to shoehorn it in there and force it.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'll go back and like look at stuff. I'm like, damn, I still like that line. Maybe I could use it later.
The world we met growing up wore Grim Reaper's hood. That was one thing that you wrote that I was just like, I read it and then I read it over again and I read it over again. And I was like, that was it like for the story, it was integrated in my heart. It was definitely a heavier story. We were talking about like, growing up and experiencing 9/11 and not really like, comprehending what that happened, but it's like them sentences like stick out for me. Like a couple of them I noticed that just stuck out. But it's interesting to hear that you say that there's like certain things, certain like sentences or phrases that you want to like use, but it just won't fit.
Yeah. Like maybe some of the earlier pieces I would just throw fucking everything in there that I had.
Yeah.
But I've gotten better at being like self-editing in that sense, where it's like, just don't force it. Like you said what you had to say. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
like that type of thing.
That's even why I asked the question as far as like, you being a writer, as far as like writing, you're kind of different because like you're already an editor, like you said, so you have that editor's eye. So you're kind of working under that sort of constraint, but you're also your writing style isn't like a whole crazy thick novel where you got to expand and expand and expand.
Well, yeah, like there's whole classes and shit on like world building.
Yeah.
Like I don't need a world build. I don't need to build Lord, like the Lord of the Rings or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you say like when we're talking about like everyday things, it's like most people can relate to being like, oh shit, yeah, I remember how I felt on that day, or you know what I mean? Like it's already there. Like I'm just like living within the same space as everyone, but I just see things differently, I guess.
That's interesting.
It's really just like observations that are like through the filter of like whatever my mind or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's really just observational. Like I was trying to describe it when I was down at that book fest, because I'm like, I haven't necessarily really talked about it much, and I'm like, it's still rooted in journalism. It's still who, what, when, where, why. But some of the pieces like are just deal with the who. some of the pieces deal with like the why. Like, why do people mosh pit? Why? Like, it's weird. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like that. Those
Very
are
weird.
those are like the thoughts behind it. It's like, what's going on during, the festivals in town.
That's interesting.
It's still just journalism, like I always say, like, I'm not smart enough to write fiction and shit.
Now, what, you said you had 38 in here, 38 stories. Like, what are some of your favorites?
I like Walk With Me in Hell.
Yeah.
About writer's block.
Yeah, that one was really cool because that was like one of the first ones in the book. And I was like, I feel like it set you up for what the book was. You know, it set a great base for what you were getting into because it's basically just like you in your mind and what these are going to be over these next, months of chaos.
Yeah. And so I've been fortunate. I mean, actually, this past year, I couldn't even have planned it. I think I've won 5 awards for my columns
For these pieces.
Yeah, in Colorado. Yeah, that are in the book. 5 of them that are in the book.
Now, what do you like? How do you like? What are these awards? Are these just awards that people see in the newspaper? They see your work in the newspaper.
Well, they're newspaper contests. So it's Colorado Press Association, which is just like the governing body of like media out in Colorado, print media. Top of the Rockies, which is another newspaper organization, it is Utah, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, and Wyoming. Yeah, so that's all the organizations. And then I won a creative nonfiction contest from an arts magazine called Pathfinder Magazine. Yeah, but yeah, they were all the pieces are in the book. So the ones I guess that got recognized were one is called My Little Cyclops about my one-eyed black cat.
That's my favorite one. I have that under my favorites.
Really?
I love that one. Barbershop Banner, Movie Nights, Carry On.
Nice.
And I mean, like, they're all good, but it's like the Cyclops one, I was like, this is such a cool way to tell this story. Just so simple.
Yeah.
And, being a pet owner, it's like, I don't know. I call the dogs like bats.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I loved reading about that just because I don't know. Do you ever feel that like, I don't know, while I was reading, I could just like hear your voice because obviously we've known each other for a long time. So it's like, kind of reading it through your voice and your eyes is, I don't know, it's easier for me to be able to like, picture everything and visualize everything, but I almost feel like it's equally as good as bad. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, I already know.
You're not necessarily surprised when I'm like,
well, not even that.
Doing some shit or like talking about certain things.
Yeah,
you're like,
talking about certain
You're like, oh, okay, like the movie night one.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, we're talking about horror stuff and Mortal Kombat.
Yeah,
and like,
exactly
you're right,
But it's like, I'm trying to think of it as like almost as a reader of someone that like I just wouldn't know you. Like people that are like people that are like listening. And I think it's so interesting, like going through all these and kind of being able to like pick out your interests about what you mention and like what you bring up and like your kind of like odes to certain things, even like Piper's Pub and like how you mention those things. Those are like them bells that keep getting hit that like just keep like the hooks that keeps stuck into you.
Well, that's so yeah, I like the Cyclops one a lot too, and I like all my heavy metal stuff just because I'm like a unapologetic metalhead at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people used to think it was like quirky or whatever, but it's like whatever. Like as I wear a Morbid Angel hoodie. But I like one of my favorites ones is called Orgy of the Sick. It's about the mosh pit.
Yeah.
Like witnessing a mosh pit.
Yeah.
And I read that at my first reading in Telluride, which was right before Halloween. So I read like the most over the top shit. Like I read the Graveyard Guardians about like that nightmare and like the goats and shit. And this lady who I never met before, it's like sweet, like, middle-aged woman. She was, afterwards we were taking, like people had some questions. We were just chatting a little bit after. And she was like, did you ever think that your heavy metal fetish has caused your nightmares? I was like, yeah, all the time. But the fact that she said heavy metal fetish, I was like, yeah, it's a fetish, sure. But like that's someone who didn't know me. And then I'm talking about like people bashing their faces in a mosh pit and getting stalked by goats in my dreams, you know, like she was probably like kind of weird guy, you know what I mean? Like I get it. Yeah.
That's kind of what that's kind of the point that I was trying to
I get it. Like if you read these and you don't know me, you're going to be like, this guy's fucking insane to a degree. You know what I mean? Like some of these pieces, like the carrion piece about hiking and like me thinking about like killing these people in front of me.
Yeah. I was thinking about that too as I was reading, and I was like, it doesn't matter where you are. If you're hiking in the woods and like you're in like some desolate area and you see another human being just walking behind you, you're like, this dude's going to snuff me out as soon as he can. And I think that that's like, full circle of what we were talking about before. It's like, that's your commentary on the world that everyone else is thinking, but you're just painting it in a different way. And I don't know. I think it's what's easy about like, just ripping through these. All these pieces are snackable. It's a wild ride while you're in it, but it's like they're snackable pieces.
Yeah.
Now, are you like as far as like your inspirations and who you take things from? It's like I read in the book that during the pandemic you were trying to read a book a week. Like on average, like how much do you read? Like, are you a TV person? Do you watch things? Do you read a lot?
Yeah. So I didn't hit that goal of reading a book a week.
How many did you read?
But I'm not sure during the pandemic, but on this year, 2022, I'm on pace to hit on average a book a week. I'll read at least 52 books, if not more.
Now, what kind of like?
But I'll read like anything.
That's what I was gonna say. I see you post things, and it's like all different spectrums. So how do you pick it?
It's literally just like it's almost like impulse, like around Halloween, for example, I'm like, I want to read like the horror shit.
Yeah.
Right. But then like after that, I'll cleanse my palate and read like a poetry collection, or I'll read like a historical nonfiction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like when I went to Miami, I was reading a climate change book about Miami and the rising sea level and basically how it's going to be Atlantis. So I'm like, this is great. Sitting at the beach, all these people are having a good time, getting all burned up and shit. And I'm like, this isn't going to be here in 70 years, but
creating your own chaos in your mind.
Yeah, but that's how like I look at stuff. I was sitting on the beach. I was like, reading this book, but it's just like stuff I'm interested in. I'll get like if I go to somewhere, like if I visit somewhere, like I went to like Salem, like you've been to Salem before. I'm like, I'm getting all the witches shit.
Yeah.
Like I'm diving into this.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So I do and I like nerdy shit like that though. Like I'll read about local history.
Yeah, you definitely.
But I'll read literally anything. Like if someone gives me a book, I feel obligated to read it.
Yeah.
Even if I wouldn't have picked it out for myself, but that's how I kind of keep it all interesting.
Yeah.
And then I could, even if I read mostly fiction at least, but then I could make a reference to that.
Yeah.
That's
it's just in your arsenal.
Yeah. That's how I look at it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
What is your, what are your ideas as far as like, the content that inspires you to write? I know that this is like, we're talking again about like, this is all observational, but like, what do you find like makes you want to like just jump and write? Like, do you have certain topics that like you gravitate towards? I know you said you love music.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's actually, it's not in the book, but it's a column that I wrote since it was probably like over the summer. Anyway, it's called Pray for Plagues. And it's literally about me walking around. I always listen to music when I'm hiking, which probably isn't a good thing because I'll probably get killed by a mountain lion someday.
That's what I was thinking while you were like, I'm wearing headphones and sunglasses. I'm like, what if a mountain lion snuffs you out?
That's like a thing. People are like, you should never do that. But anyway, but it's literally just about me. I just do this like one loop around town and just to kind of clear my head. But I was listening to music, and it was Bring Me the Horizon, and it was a bunch of other bands, but all of the lyrics were like around like the Roe versus Wade. It was around Roe versus Wade time. So I was like walking, and it's like the Pray for Plagues.
Yeah, I know.
So I was like, oh, this is fucking wild.
Yeah.
I was like, all these songs are just like with that on my mind, I could relate them all to this.
Once he said that the rivers flow with blood.
Clap your hands to the sound of all the firstborns dying now. Watch the rivers flow with blood.
Yeah.
Death now stands where life once stood.
Yeah, I mean, and now he's on the
see, I just framed it. Like I just said Roe versus Wade, and then I said that lyric. Now, what are you thinking about? Like you're relating it to that.
Yeah, you apply it to what's in your life.
So that's kind of where I'm at. You know, like sometimes like grenade to my heart. Like obviously all the shit was going down. I'm like, well, if you listen to all these lyrics, like you could like redefine them to a degree. So I kind of like reframing stuff like that. But music, especially like metal music, it's funny because like their vocal delivery is so harsh. You can't really tell what they're like, make out what they're saying. But if like I'm a nerd, like I'll listen to songs and read the lyrics along.
Okay, that's I feel like
so I'll be like, oh shit, that's what he says.
Yeah,
that's fucking wild. And then I'll like, you could quote it. That's
a good point.
But yeah, I mean, it is kind of random. Like I can't like sit down and be like, I'm gonna write a call or like a story right now. It's like, oh, I was out for a walk and I saw something weird. And I put it down in my notes and I revisit it.
Some ravens eating a squirrel's eye. Mm-hmm. Yeah, some weird shit like that.
Yeah, like you see that all the time,
That's interesting because it's like, now you have that article about like creative blocks and, writer's block and everything. It's like, what kind of things do you do that, could kind of shake you out of that?
Like for that piece in particular.
Yeah.
I was just sitting there and I was just picking out lyrics I liked. Because I always listen to music while I write, too.
I don't know how you do that.
I just have to have, like, it's almost like white noise, I guess, to a degree. But, yeah, I'm always, like, if anyone would see me writing, even just working in general on the paper, like, if they would just see me walk in one day to my place, they'd be like, this is chaos.
Yeah.
Like, shit's blaring.
Can you read while you're listening to music?
Sometimes I do that sometimes, but not all the time. But I'm usually always listening to music when I'm writing.
That's interesting.
And when I come up on like a little writer's block, I'll kind of like sit back. I pace around a lot. I also snack a lot while I write, and then I'll just like listen to music. Sometimes I change the music, but that could get me out of it. And it's always too like I'll try to hit a little bit of a word count. I'm like, okay, if you get to 400 words, then you can kind of take a break.
Yeah. You at least
know what I mean? It's like
here.
You try to like get words out.
Yeah.
Like just get it out even if you're not going to use it. It's like the practice of it.
Yeah. Vomiting out all that bile.
Yeah.
Now, whenever you're doing this and you're like, do you find, the whole, like, do you find you write better if you're like fucked up at all? Do you notice a difference of that? Or does it kind of like do a disservice for you? Like if you're smoking or if you're like drinking, like does that bring out creative juices in you?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really done that since like college.
Yeah.
And that is a thing though.
I know.
Like, people do that, but I can't do it.
It's like stereotypical like Hunter S. Thompson shit.
Exactly. But like I can't do that. Or like Bukowski was always drunk or whatever. Like what's the quote? It's like write drunk, edit sober, I think is Hemingway. I would do that in college sometimes and do like the stream of consciousness, like Hunter S. Thompson, weird shit, but I can't do that anymore. Yeah. I can't.
Well, that's,
I mean, smoking actually during the pandemic, I mean, I quit doing everything now. I'm like basically stone sober, but like smoking during the pandemic started giving me anxiety real bad.
Yeah.
So then I was like, oh, I could take my anxiety, which I've always had, and tap into that.
Yeah.
That's how I look at stuff. Like I want people to feel weird when they read my shit.
Yeah.
Like I don't want people to be like, yeah, that was pretty good. I want them to be like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Like, while they're eating dinner later, you're like, wow, I wonder what he was going through whenever he was writing that. That's some heavy ass shit.
Yeah.
That's interesting to think about, just because it's like the stereotypical thing you hear, but I guess it makes sense. Like I probably wouldn't.
I just haven't done it in a while. Sometimes like I usually like when I was revising these stories, like I would get up early and I'd write first thing.
Yeah.
But before that, I was always writing late.
Yeah.
Always like kind of like the nighttime when like no one could bother you and shit. And you were kind of like the only one up to a degree.
You like that?
I liked it. Yeah. But now I've become like more, I guess, structured with it.
That's good.
Like breaking it down like that.
to make you more, more active, more accountable, hold you to it.
But yeah, like I said, like even if I get up and I'm like, all right, I got 2 hours to write, even if I get 200 words down, it's like you got something down. Like you have to do something.
Yeah.
Can't just sit there and like mull it over in your head all day.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
What now whenever you were, like coming out with this book and you're like doing this like road tour, it's like what are your ideas as far as the type of places that you want to try to get your book into? Like do you have like did you have an idea of like you're marketing this yourself? It's like what was your plan on how to do it? Like what was your layout of it all? Were you just emailing people?
Yeah, dude. Like I still don't have a plan, I don't think. It's like the places I was going.
Yeah.
It's like, I'll see if they have like a comic book. Like I think this would fit in really well at like, like alternative press type of places, or bookshops.
Yeah.
And comic book stores.
Yeah. To
a degree. And I've left some copies at dive bars, dude.
Yeah.
Like I don't write like this isn't like highfalutin shit that I'm writing. You know what I mean? Like I've joked like I just write for like barflies and
I get that. I get that.
Like I don't know, like the everyman.
That's understandable, but it's
to a degree, but like I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, that's why I'm asking. That's why I'm asking these questions. It's like I feel like I'm just like crazy as far as I'm just like I overthink things. I'm sure that you do the same.
Oh yeah,
and it's like I want to create a plan as far as me investing my money into this. But it's like as
like
someone,
ideally, ideally, I would like to have like I guess a little bit more organized rollout to it and have like things set where I could be like, okay, well, I'm going to be in here, so let's do this. Or
what's the process of getting into a shop? Like, is that a big deal, or is it basically just, hey,
every shop's different. Some of them make you fill out like an online questionnaire. Some of them don't take indie authors at all. Okay. They only work with reps or agents or big publishers. And other people are just like, yeah, cool, man. Like, come drop off 2 copies.
Huh.
Yeah, some people only order them online on the print on demand website. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Now, is this available, like on like Kindles and shit?
No, I don't have an e-edition or an audio book.
What's your thoughts behind that? Do you
honestly, it just came down to resources. I just didn't have the bandwidth to do that. I do. If someone would really want an ebook and they reach out to me directly, I could give them an ebook.
Yeah.
But I don't have it on platforms for
just
sale.
ready to buy.
Yeah.
Now, like, what are your thoughts as far as like, you and an ebook? Like, are you someone that listens to books ever?
No, I like physical books.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I don't even like reading on like a
Kindle type thing. Yeah, I like having a book.
I like having a book and bending the fucking pages. And if I'm reading at the beach, there's some sand there, and it's
I got highlights in mine.
I like it. Yeah, I like having that book, and I'm gonna keep it for fucking ever for my personal library. Like I look at books too that I read as like references.
Yeah,
they're reference books.
Yeah,
I do the same shit. Like I'll put like a little note or a little sticky note out the side and be like, I like that quote.
Yeah.
And then I'll be writing something. I'll be like, what did I read in that book one time? And I'll go back and reference it. Yeah. That's how I do shit. But yeah, I can't listen, even though as much as I listen to music while I do everything else, I can't listen to books.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
That's fine. That's fine, but it's interesting to hear.
Yeah. But that's why I wanted to do like short runs. That's why I want to just start printing my own books. Like I still collect cassette tapes and vinyl and CDs and shit.
Yeah.
I just like trenches. I like the physical format of everything.
You like making it difficult on yourself.
Yeah.
But what is your goals for as far as, where you are as a writer and where you want to, take the book and how you want to maneuver that? You're just trying to figure it out.
Like grand scheme, I guess, like my overarching goal is like, I just want to be totally independent.
Yeah.
Like if I can make this lucrative enough, or putting out books lucrative enough that I could, have my own little fucking life with a cabin in the woods or something. Great, man. I don't want to work for anyone else. I fucking hate roles. I hate having a boss.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Work is a curse. So I'm like
serving time.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But like, I just wanted to like do my own thing, man. Like if I could do these things independently, great.
Yeah.
If I could build like, some of my initial marketing is a very loose term, but like when I started promoting this, I guess you could say mainly on social media, it was like join the cult. I want a cult following.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a New York Times bestseller.
Yeah.
I just want to be like the weirdo writer.
Yeah.
That like
it's making enough to make his next project.
Yeah. That like people are like, have you heard of this guy? Like
Yeah.
who the fuck is Reverend Justin Criado?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I think it's almost like this, it's like a viral element, I guess.
Yeah. It's like being in the know of the underground stuff.
Yeah, like I don't want to be like a glossy, flashy, like I don't want like moms reading this shit because it's not for moms necessarily. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Like, you want it to be true to its roots.
Yeah, I want people to be a little bit weirded out about it.
Now, let me ask you this, and I can cut this out if you don't want this in here, but I'm curious about it, and I feel like other people would be curious. Would you talk about numbers as far as what a book costs someone to do shit independently?
Yeah, my budget based off the grant I received was $2,000.
Okay.
I did it within $2,000.
$2,000 to be able to print the books.
To do everything. I bought the cover art, I did cover design, I worked with my copy editor and print and shipped.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now
you could definitely pour more money into
it. And honestly, I expected you to say way more. But
it's called like it was a shoestring budget.
Well, that's I mean, you made some shit work.
I mean, and I didn't even keep fucking records for this shit, but like, I printed some stickers and I put it together like a Wix website real quick. Like that wasn't in my initial grant budget.
Well, the reason I even asked that,
but like $2,000, $2,000.
The reason I asked that, and it's not even to like, get to dig into your like, whatever this is, but I'm curious to know, it's like, did you ever have any idea to go towards like a big, like a publisher and letting someone else do the work? Like, what is the cost comparison to that? How, like, is that way more expensive do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I would have more money behind this if I worked with a publisher.
Yeah.
Traditional publisher. But the way that works is they usually give you an advance.
Yeah.
Right? And then you don't make money until they collect back that advance through sales.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So for me, all my costs were up front.
Yeah.
And if I sell all of my stock, I'll double my money. I mean, I got a grant, so everything's revenue. If I sell one $20 book, I made money.
Yeah.
Right. But anyway, that's the difference between like doing a short run and having the stock, and then you have to distribute it yourself to a degree.
I get what you're saying. Now. So if you go to a bigger name, they're going to footing the bill for a big.
Yeah. I guess it's similar to like if you get a record contract, like they're going to give you $10,000 to write a book. Well, you're not seeing any more money until they make back that $10,000 and you sell over $10,000 worth of books. And then even then it gets stomped on. There's cuts. You don't get like 100%.
Yeah. There's a bunch of people
with
their
you're
fingers in the pie.
Yeah. And to me, like, I'm like, dude, I just want, it's not going to be that lucrative to a degree. So I want all the money on a $20 book. That's where I was at. With
that's understandable, but it's also cool because like in this demo tape, it's like you're not blowing your wad on like someone to have this demo tape, but you're also like earning your stripes with this and learning in it and figuring it out yourself.
Yeah, and to have like I was ready to kind of do this eventually without the support of the grant money. But once I got the grant money, I was like, this is great, right? Like it's a learning experience, of course, but it's like, I don't feel like the anxiety of being like, holy shit, I'm out a couple grand now. Like that financial stress wasn't there with that.
Yeah. It took away
which was nice. Cause I was like, oh, I'm just kind of doing this. And obviously they helped me promote it as well. I did a reading with them.
That's awesome.
So that was cool. Yeah. So that, I guess they've helped market it more than probably I have.
This is a wild ride. This is a wild ride. It is.
Yeah, it's fun shit.
It is. It's fun. It's cool to see that you are just like, this is kind of all coming together and just, you're bringing things to light and it's, I don't know, it's fun. It's exciting. It's definitely probably chaotic. I'm sure that you're losing your mind trying to figure all this shit out by yourself.
Yeah.
But it's fun to do.
But it's like a passion project.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were sitting down 4 years ago at the cabin and you would have told me this, I'd be like, yeah, whatever.
I wanted to listen to that to see if we talked about, if I asked you if you were going to.
I don't think so, man. Like it was such like it was such as probably like an obscure, just like miracle dream idea of mine.
Yeah, because
I would have no idea how to get there.
You were really focusing on like just being like a writer, like an everyday news journalist where you were just like living in that moment. But, like coming together with this. And I read in your book that like, in your acknowledgments that like this ultimately came down to Carly just saying, you just got to do it.
Yeah. She's been saying that for years.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure, but, as far as like the other work that you have that like is not put out in books, do you just like have, how rappers and shit have just thousands of tracks, do you just have a hard drive full of just stories?
Yeah, dude, I have literally drawers full of writing. I type shit on typewriters. Going back to,
what's your preference?
No, I like doing it all on like a computer now.
You like the computer to do it on there?
Yeah.
Probably the most practical.
But even going back to college, not saying that it's all fucking good, but I have shit. I just have shit. I don't know. It's not organized. Like that's been in my mind too. I'm like, you should go back and read some of that stuff. But yeah, I got handwritten journals. I got typed out fucking pages. Some were just like printed out from like a Word doc or whatever. Yeah, I just got like piles of shit. Some of them just sticky notes, just on scraps of paper, like napkins or shit. Just like shit. I don't know how else to describe, like inspiration, like quotes. I don't even know.
Random ideas.
Yeah,
it's like Dumbledore's pool.
Yeah,
just pulling from random shit.
Exactly.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. Now, as far as you have Rick Brickhart, cover art designer. You know, like what does that mean as far as like I know what an author photo is. I saw like the what do you call them, acknowledgments in the front of the pages. But we know the cover artist was that Gordy Art from Ukraine. That's the
his name's Artem. Yeah,
what's his name? Artem.
Yeah,
Gordy Art on Instagram. And then the cover design. So it's like whenever you're finding someone to do that, like you hire this dude to help you with that. What is his role?
Yeah, so Rick, I actually work with at the paper. He actually lays out and designs our newspaper.
Oh shit!
So
that's awesome.
I asked him. I was like, "Have you ever done book covers?" He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "Well, here's my budget." And he's like, "I could totally do that for you." So I sent him the cover art, obviously, and then I sent him the back cover copy, and then I wanted to include this Telluride Arts District logo, and then I kind of just sent him some ideas for the font, and I let him. He sent me like 10 plus drafts, like to pick from.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, he was great. But the initial inspiration I sent him was a Corrosion of Conformity band logo, because I was like, oh, COC, like Chronicles of Chaos, Corrosion of Conformity, But yeah, he did great. And I kind of told him like, my vision's like, I just want this kind of like black and white, black metal type of vibe. Yeah. I mean, the cover art was already in black and white, but I was like, I just don't want it to be too like, I don't know, like thrill.
Yeah, frilly.
Frilly. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he did great with it.
That's cool. It's cool to hear about like how all these things come together because like me looking at this thing, like this is fucking awesome to just have it in my hand and to like look through and just see like, the He Is Legend in there and like,
dude, Skylar.
I know. I saw he gave you his blessing. I want to know about that story.
Dude. Yeah. I should have brought that up earlier.
That's all right. I'm a professional.
Like, yeah. It's weird to be the one being interviewed, like on this side of my, because I'm used to interviewing people. Yeah, that's more so than anything.
That's interesting. Do you interview people audio like this? And
yeah, I do a voice recorder and then I transcribe.
Yeah, that's I feel like that. I don't know why I never utilized that more in like high school or anything like that.
Oh yeah, I never did it until I had to, like I know, for like college and shit.
But audio is so much more useful.
Yeah, I used to when I first started. Before I got a voice recorder, I used to just shorthand everything and write it in a reporter's pad, which is probably like I can't even think of doing that now. But anyway, I mean, with the He Is Legend quote in the front. I'm just totally like like He Is Legend's like probably my favorite band. Definitely.
Yeah.
Their latest album I was just listening to on repeat today too. Endless Hallway. Like I love it. And I've always liked this quote from like That's Nasty. It says, "Try and be alone and not lonely." And I was like, that just hit me. Cause there's like a difference between being alone and lonely.
Yeah.
And I think this song came out in like 2009. like when I graduated high school. So I've always loved it. And, you know, I was putting this book together and like, you know, the computer program, and there was like an option for this type of page, you know, called like an epigraph. And I was like, damn, I want to use that quote, because it is about just like me being alone in my head most of the time, you know, like my writing. So I found like just like a General He's Legend email, and I just like reached out to it. I was like, hey man, this is what I'm doing. I was wondering if like anyone from the band would like give me their blessing, basically. And Skylar got back to me within like an hour. And he was like, of course, man, I just want a copy of the book when it comes out. I was like, hell yeah, man. So I sent him a copy like last month.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was cool too. And I think it kind of plays into like, you know, you're going to see a lot of like musical references and lyrics throughout this book too.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Definitely wild.
Yeah. And it's like, you know, fanboy me. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
You know, like that's Skylar, you know,
it's cool.
Like he actually got back to me, you know, it wasn't like some PR rep or something, you know?
Yeah. That's really cool. Okay. So the thing that I did want to ask you about, Reverend. Okay. So, Reverend, you know, I was kind of mentioned in this book as far as the wedding that you were ordained for. Now, your Reverend, what was your choice as far as like, you know, publishing this as Reverend Justin Criado?
You know, writers use pen names all the time. This isn't necessarily a pen name, but it's also not necessarily like totally fabricated. Like I am a Reverend, and I just thought it would be.
That's dope.
I thought it would be just an interesting juxtaposition where it's like, you know, I'm trying to build a cult. So it's like I'm the cult leader. That's kind of was basically my thought behind it. But like the last reading I did, someone was like, you write under Reverend Justin Criado. Is your faith strong to you? And I was like, I just got ordained to marry my buddies on Friday the 13th. I was like, it's non-denominational.
The spaghetti monster or whatever.
Flying spaghetti monster.
Wow. So these readings that you have been doing, it's like, you know, are these what type of crowds are you getting? Because
they both. I did 2 of them in Telluride, and then I did. It wasn't necessarily straight up reading, but I did like an author's panel and taught a workshop in Miami. And way different crowds, as you could imagine, in both places. Obviously, back in Telluride, it's more, you know, local support, stuff like that. You know, some people I knew more so than anything. But it's been good though. It's been like this last one. The last Telluride reading was last week, and it was like I was saying, it's off season out there.
Yeah.
So like we're, you know, the Telluride Arts District's promoting it, and I'm posting about it, and I had flyers up and shit around town.
Yeah.
Like, you know, stapling flyers up and shit. And like, I'm like, no one's going to fucking show up to this, you know? Like everyone's fucking gone. People got better shit to do on a Thursday night before the holiday week. And I get there, it was like 10 to 15 people came out. And I was like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, like I think having no expectations helps too.
That's the best.
I'm not like, I'm going to sell out this auditorium.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, if one person shows up, I'm going to do a reading.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll be able to talk to someone that's interested about what I do.
Yeah, like I'll probably talk to you even more.
Yeah.
You know, than I would.
More than you want.
Yeah, than like
I'll be
10
telling
people.
you way more than you want.
Yeah, like I've been talking about Asian jumping worms a lot because of that story that I have.
That's cool. That's a cool experience, I'm sure, to be able to kind of just read through your work and just kind of see that almost, because a writer, they don't really get the gratification all the time as far as like getting that immediate response as far as like seeing what people really thought of it. But if you're reading a story to people and, you know, you can kind of see someone like cock their head a little bit or kind of like,
or like
look at you all weird,
you know, laughed out loud.
Yeah. And it's cool to see like what part people gravitate towards of things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Ending segment that I do with everyone is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions.
Yep. This is Desert Island music.
Yeah. Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and exhaust until their expulsion. First thing is 3 movies to take.
3 movies to take?
Yeah, you have to pick 3 movies that you would watch over and over and over again for the rest of your life. If you were stuck on a desert island like
Mandy.
Mandy, Nick Cage.
You know what I'm talking about?
I didn't watch it yet.
Dude, watch that
I know
shit.
everyone's.
You would love
people
that.
told me that it was really good.
Mandy, for sure. You definitely need to watch that.
Every day for the rest of your life, you'd be down to just watch it over and over?
Maybe not every day. I get 2 others, right? But Mandy for sure, man. Let's see. Another one that Poltergeist.
Yeah.
That shit still holds up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That still holds up.
It's a good one.
So those are kind of like 2 horror, like intense ones. I think I'm going to I'll probably do a Wes Anderson film. The Life Aquatic.
Steve Zissou.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
That'll be my palate cleanser in between Poltergeist and Mandy.
That's a good one. You switch back and forth. One serious, one palate cleanser, one serious. That's good. Exactly. Just keep rotating. Yeah. Okay, second category. You're unique because I originally started this second category as 3 books to take on a desert island. Usually people are like, I don't read. So I just always gravitate towards something else, but you read pretty often. If you had to choose 3 books to take, would that be something you'd be able to do?
Yeah, let's try it. I would take a Bukowski collection. Probably Love is a Dog from Hell, which is a good one. Ham on Rye is another good one. That's more of like a novel though. But a Bukowski collection will go with Love is a Dog from Hell. I would take Thomas Ligotti, who is like way better than Stephen King.
Okay.
But he's like a weirdo underground
horror writer?
Yep, he writes
like what type
short
of horror?
Stories. Just like bizarro shit, man. Like he has this one story called Last Feast of the Harlequin, and it's about like how this like weird Midwest town does this like winter solstice festival to sacrifice like the winter queen to like these Syrian worm people that live under the ground. Like it's crazy shit.
Yeah.
Like you feel different after you read his shit. Like you are fundamentally different. You're like,
it's like the first time you watch Human Centipede.
Exactly. It's exactly. You're like, I cannot, like, you don't see things the same. Thomas Ligotti, I would do his first collection, Songs of a Dead Dreamer.
Okay.
And then the last one will probably be Kurt Vonnegut. And there's a lot of Kurt Vonnegut. I don't know if I want to do a collection or a novel. Bluebeard by Kurt Vonnegut.
I don't know if I've even heard of that one.
Dave gave it to me.
What's it about?
It's about this like old guy who lives by the seashore, and he has like this art masterpiece, and no one believes him.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and then at the very end, I believe he dies, and people see the masterpiece. Like he wasn't telling a lie the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah,
sounds fun.
Yeah.
Third category: 3 CDs.
CDs,
yeah,
specifically
compact disc, anti-skip,
like NSYNC, no, Spice World.
Yeah,
I had those on CD back.
Oh yeah,
like you didn't grow up in like the late 90s, early 2000s with Backstreet Boys, Millennium.
100%.
3 CDs: Slayer, Rain and Blood, because that's the greatest thrash record of all time, if not one of the greatest metal albums of all time. I'm gonna go with a He Is Legend. I will go with Suck Out the Poison.
Okay.
It's a banger. And the third record, if I had to listen to it for all of eternity, it's going to be a metal record, I think. I'm going to go with Motorhead, Ace of Spades.
All right.
Actually, no, Motorhead, Overkill.
All right. That's let's fit the same trend.
Yeah.
Just all the time, just starving to death on an island, just like smashing
like Rain and Blood.
Yeah. Just all dizzy from not eating.
Yeah.
Okay. Third to last question is the death row meal. So the death row meal is whenever everyone gets their last meal before they get put to death, like you read about creepy John Wayne Gacy and shit. Now
he was trying to eat himself to death.
Yeah, what a wild dude.
Yeah,
very wild.
Did you know his last meal?
Wasn't it a bucket of like all the KFC,
a dozen strawberries,
yeah, and
a pint of ice cream,
Dr. Pepper and shit, like three bottles of Dr. Pepper or some wild shit.
Yeah.
Now, what would yours be? Appetizer, main course, and the dessert.
I don't even think you get that much when they put you down. No, but
Give me
I
one
always
behind
thought,
the ear.
I always thought I'd outsmart the executioner and be like, I want a buffet.
Yeah.
And I'd just eat forever till I die.
There's a sick movie called The Platform on Netflix.
Ooh.
You know what that is? You should watch it. It's wild.
Is it about eating yourself to death?
So a quick breakdown. There is it just starts out with two people in this concrete cell, and there's this big ass hole in the ground, and you just you have no context of what it is. There's a big number on the wall. It says 45, and then you find out that there's a certain number of levels. At the top level, there is a table that comes down with gourmet Michelin star food, and the lower it gets, the less food there is. So there's everything's great at the top level, but then there's fucking chaos at the bottom. People are trying to kill each other and eat each other to survive because after a month you switch to a different level, so you could get the good or the bad luck. But it is a wild movie.
I like that. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it's a foreign film. I can't remember. It might be Portuguese, but it's real good.
Good.
Yeah,
that sounds good. So while you were talking, I was not thinking about my last meal.
That's all right.
But
we were talking about eating everything to death, and that's what popped into my mind.
Yeah. No, I like that. Last meal, man. I don't know. If I had to choose, I think I would probably get every fast food ever.
Yeah, Fat Man Mile.
The Fat Man Mile.
That was terrible.
It was terrible. It was terrible. But I like Taco Bell a lot.
Yeah, Taco Bell.
That might kill you if you eat enough of it.
Classic hitter.
Yeah.
Always a crazy line around here. Always a crazy line.
I'll go with chalupas. I'll go do my chalupa meal, nacho Bel Grande.
That's good.
All the shit.
Those are good.
Baja Blast.
Yeah, to top it off. Okay, second to last question. You're going on a road trip. What's the snack you get from the gas station?
Okay, this is kind of weird, but my road trip snack is Diet Mountain Dew and a Payday bar.
Ugh. That sounds like the worst combination.
I hate myself.
That's two sweets together. I can't do
What's
that.
yours? What do you? Beef jerky's like a staple though.
Beef jerky's good. If I have a snack, honestly, they've been these frozen yogurt chocolate covered bars from Sheetz. That's what I've been getting recently, and I'll usually get a liquid death water.
I do liquid deaths as well.
I like it. I used to be I don't need that. I'm not going to pay extra for this water because it's going to murder your thirst and it's all hip, but it's cool. After you I interviewed this lady who works at the Allegheny Cleanways. She told me how much pollution
plastic.
there is. Yeah. Metal can is a game changer. I feel like a piece of shit having just water bottles constantly. One dude was in here.
I think I'm squarely in their demographic.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah. And plus, it's cool. You know, it doesn't help that it's awesome and all trendy and stuff like that. But I can gravitate towards it. It's good.
Absolutely.
Though.
But yeah, that's my. I was talking about this with someone gas station food is a genre of food.
Yeah.
I fuck with gas station food.
Yeah. Kogo's around here got the best pepperoni.
Put that shit under a heat lamp for 12 hours. I'm going to buy it.
It adds to it.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. I don't know what mine would be. Mine's like a water. And then, if it's sweet.
Yeah. Mine's very oddly specific and it's the king size Payday bar.
All right. Go with it. Why not? Okay. Last question. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Oh man. I'm probably going to go with one of the writers I just talked about. It would probably be with Bukowski. Actually, it'd probably be with Kurt Vonnegut, just because he's such an interesting dude. He had foresight and everything. I feel like he tapped into the human experience pretty well. And he was also known he would give talks at colleges or whatnot. But he was also known just to answer anyone's letter. So as a writer, I feel like he could impart some wisdom.
What year did he die?
He died in the early 2000s, I believe.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, before we leave everyone, take a second and promote your book. Tell everyone where they could find it, where they could find you, and all the above, where they could join the cult.
Yeah. Chronicles of Chaos is my latest book. You could find it because it's not on fucking Amazon or anywhere that you buy your mass market paperbacks. You could find it on my personal website, which is justincriado.com, JUSTINCRIADO.com. Or if you want to just hit me up on Instagram, my handle on there is Criado138. So it's CRIADO 138. And just like, let me know and I'll get one to you. But that's basically how I've been hustling this.
Yeah.
You know, word of mouth. As of right now, it's not in any Pittsburgh bookstores. It's in bookstores out in Telluride.
Yeah.
So if you're from the Pittsburgh area and want one, you need to find me directly.
Yeah.
Buy direct.
We're gonna figure something out for that. We're gonna figure out a spot to get these in. All right.
As I burp.
That's all right. Everyone else that's listening, I appreciate it as usual. Each and every week, we're back with another fantastic person doing amazing things in this place we call life. I appreciate it as usual. Call you right back.